Hello, this is Chris from the Obstacle Doc, and today we're going to focus on upper body stabilization through the shoulder girdle when we think about our weight-bearing exercises and positions. So we're going to think about our planks of the world, our push-ups of the world, anything where we're loading and bearing weight through our arms. You may wonder why Daniela's on her back, is because we're actually going to use this as a learning position first, then we're going to flip over and go through the shoulder blade component first, and then we're going to go through the shoulder joint or the ball and socket component second. So a way to understand shoulder blade stabilization on your back, the nice thing is the floor kind of gives you really good tactile feedback for your head and spinal posture. So while Daniela's chin is kind of level, she's looking up at the ceiling, she has her natural curve in her neck. Her pelvis is level, she has a natural curve in her low back. Legs can be bent up, this is totally fine. If anything, it'll kind of relax the back, which is good. So from this position, Daniela is gonna put her arms as if she is in a full arm plank or the up position of a push-up. And from here, the idea is she is going to, keeping her elbows straight, actively kind of reach forward and high five the ceiling above her. As she does that, her shoulder blades are going to round actively around her back. So this is kind of an exaggerated version of scapular protraction, primarily coming from the serratus anterior group. Things you want to watch for as the therapist and for yourself: this is not a crunch. We are not rounding off of the floor. If we do, that is movement from the spine, which we're going to really try to stabilize and negate. So keeping the elbows straight, we're going to punch, high five, return. Elbows never bend on the return. It's not that. So elbows straight, push, return, push, return. Progression models for this: weights can be in the hand. A band can be wrapped around underneath to stretch the band as well. But this is a great way to understand the combination of spine position and shoulder girdle motion from the shoulder blade.
So as we're practicing protraction and retraction with the scapular movements, we also want to think about the glenohumeral stability, so your shoulder socket itself and how it's stabilizing when you're in that weight-bearing position. So we can practice that while we're laying on our back to begin with, to appreciate how easy or hard it is before we actually load through the joint. So if Christopher has his arms up to the sky, elbows are straight, we're going to pretend like there's that force, that floor that we're making contact with. So the way that we want to look at it from this view is that the inside of the elbow, or your elbow pits as you will, is actually turned towards you. So towards the, it's shining forward, if you will. So you can see a little bit of rotation coming through his hands. So the reason I like to do it in this position first is because you can actually see that rotation. As soon as we go into our closed chain position, or as soon as we get into weight bearing, you don't actually turn the hands out that much. So I want you to get an appreciation first of the shoulders actually getting and guiding that rotation in this position. So once he gets that open, that's where we want to hold, and then you can add in the scapular retraction and protraction as well. Cool. So once we flip over and now we're in our load bearing position, we are going to, without rotating through our hands necessarily, we're going to focus on getting that rotation from the glenohumeral joint and taking your elbow pits to face forward. So if Christopher lets his arms fall in, what you'll kind of see is you'll round through the shoulders a little bit. So you start to let this kind of roll forward, and then we're going to have a bit of a collapse through the system from the top. So if we can start to push out, rotate out from the elbow, which is really from here, right? Your elbow isn't the one that's rotating, it's rotating from the center of the body. This is how we want to set up for our plank, our push-up, all those load-bearing things. The other thing that you can try to do, most people want to keep their hands really all facing forward. You can ever so slightly rotate that hand so that instead of your middle finger pointing towards the 12 o'clock on the clock, you're actually kind of taking your index finger to 12 o'clock and you're rotating just a little bit out from there. All right, so if we're having any sort of difficulty maintaining either the scapular retraction, protraction, or that glenohumeral external rotation through our plank, through our push-up, what we can do is we can use a block to kind of stop ourselves physically in that range. So Christopher's going to go down. He's actually on his knees because that's decreased weight bearing, so it's an easier load. He's going to stay in that really nice long line that we found earlier, and he's going to just go down to the block and then push up from there. So we're keeping that elbow facing forward. It's not a true tricep push-up. He doesn't have his arms totally in. They're still coming out at that angle. You can do it in a true tricep form, but in this form, we're just staying in that slightly externally rotated position. And he's going to go down to meet the block. Good. And you can come back up. For anyone who does yoga, if you do chaturangas, going from that high plank to the low plank position, this is also a really nice tool to do so that you're not letting your shoulders dip too far forward if you don't have that control. So if he goes to the bottom and his shoulders start to dive forward past his elbow, that starts to get really not friendly on the shoulder joint. So we want to be able to come down with control, staying level, so we're not diving forward. So just to look at this from another view, we are going to go good form first. So he's just pushing the ground ever so slightly away. He's rotating the elbow forward from the joint. We're going to come down with control. He's kind of staying at this 45 degrees and come back up. And if we do it one time without our strong form, so he's kind of laxing through the elbow, that elbow's rolling in. He's kind of getting a little bit of a chicken wing. You can see these are kind of falling out off the sides. Perfect.
All right, as we progress from the floor, so now we've understood the movement that we're looking for, now we're actually gonna start to put load through the shoulder itself. We're starting in a table position, again, to make life a little bit easier. We can extend the legs out into our full plank position to start to make this more advanced. I have the stick to create our spinal line for the neck, middle back, and the lower back. So again, the objective here is to stay on the line the whole time. It is very easy for the head to want to drop with most of these positions, or consequently to look up ahead of us, which also pushes the stick off of the back. So again, our eyes are facing straight down, our chin is tucked, and we're holding this position as we go. Now from here, we're going to take that same punch, high five motion that we did on our back, but we don't want to round here. Yep. So we're just coming through the shoulder blades, and then we're coming down, and then we're coming back. It is not a big movement. So what you'll be able to sense, even through her shirt, is motion coming from the shoulder blades. As she presses, they round around. As she drops, they come back together. As she presses, they round around, come back together, holding the line. If she rounds her back too much, that is spinal motion. That is not stabilization from the shoulder blade. Taking this out to a more advanced position, we're going to go out to a full plank or the up position of a push-up. We're keeping our line, and we're doing the exact same thing. So we're pressing up through the shoulder blades, coming down, pressing up, coming down.